It's been 40 years since the perfect 10.
The first time in the history of the sport, a perfect 10.
You're just in awe. You want to replicate the exact same thing, but it is very difficult, and that's why she's the only one that has gotten it.
You have to give Nadia a tremendous amount of the credit for the boom of American female gymnastics.
It was heroic what she did, and the risks that she took.
By the time when I got to defect, I think that was the only time in my adult life when I had no fear. I don't think that kids have any fear. I used to climb trees a lot, and I was going to the highest tree, and everybody around me was, you know, you can't go there because you may fall, and I wanted to go there because I just felt that it was exciting. And when I entered the gym for the first time in my life, I thought this is the place where I could do things that makes me feel good. Bela Karolyi and Marta were my coaches at the Olympics. I've worked with them since I remember when I was 6, 7 years old. And I always say that my success happened because Bela and Marta were coaching at that particular time, and it was just a happy triangle that connected us.
I went out in the kindergarten and elementary school to recruit young athletes for my gymnastic group. Hey, who can do a cartwheel? 2 little girls from behind, the way behind on the class, yeah, we do, let me see it. Choop. These are the ones. So I said, tell to your mommy, we want to talk to you about gymnastics, to being involved in the gymnastic program. Yes, we're gonna be there. Okay. And that was the first time I see Nadia. Physically, she was talented, well gifted, strength, agility, endurance, and not quite that much flexibility, which we had to work constantly on that one to make the skills with big amplitude. The way how she responded, the way I said 10 push-ups, she made 15 push-ups. I said, where is this coming for, honey? I made it 10. Yeah, but I want to do better. Papa. Unbelievable. I said, yes. Now that's the type of kid, the one I dreamed to have.
Hello. Hi, guys. Can we stick our nose in here and see how you guys are doing?
Yes.
Okay. Not a week goes by where some woman doesn't corner me somewhere and say, I need to tell you something. Your wife was my biggest inspiration. I mean, I meet people everywhere who want to say something about where they were when Nadia got her 10 and what it meant to them.
She's become sport royalty. There's this icon quality about her that you can't deny. I mean, she is an icon of the sport. She transformed the sport in the United States by creating so much interest in it.
And I remember one time I met First Lady Michelle Obama. And Nadia and I were standing there talking to her, and she said, Nadia, do you know what you did for me? She said, when I saw you do what you do, it made me feel like I could do anything too if I just worked hard enough.
When I left Romania at the airport, and I was together with the entire team that competed at the Olympics in 1976, I remember I said to a journalist that I hope to win a medal, and if it's possible, to be golds. My routine on the uneven bars, the first routine actually that I got the 10, was a compulsory routine. In the time when I was competing, we had to do compulsory also, which is the same routine at each event, which is basically sounds kind of boring. But I think that my routine was a little bit different though, even though there was exactly the same. I did something that I called the Nadia touch, which is every little skill that I had to do, I add a little more amplitude. I made it bigger. Well, usually I don't watch the scoreboard because I'm able to give myself a score on the base of how I felt I did. So I landed, and I thought I did a good routine. Actually, I didn't expect to get, I didn't even think about, 10. I was hoping that I was going to get 9 or something close to that. And just because I heard the big noise in the arena, I turn around and I see the scoreboard that it's a 1.00, which was very confusing to everybody.
Prior to that Olympic Games, Omega, which was the official timer, had said to the International Gymnastics Federation, is there any reason why we have to be prepared to put a 10 on our scoreboards? And the people at the Federation said, no, nobody's ever going to get a 10 in our sport. So there was the only score they could put up to even approximate that was 1.00.
The reaction of the crowd was incredible. The announcer saying, ladies and gentlemen, the first time in the history of the sport, a perfect 10. Nobody expected from us. Nobody really wanted to pretend that we are expecting the perfect 10. But when sincerely and honestly came out from 7 judges a perfect 10, I said, yes, that's great. Next event, on the beam.
Balance beam is probably one of the most difficult events in gymnastics because it's very, very narrow. And you cannot hide a mistake. But it was also my favorite event for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Beautiful performance, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth on the beam. Solid like a rock. And with her superior attitude, She was always in this proud attitude.
When I saw the score at the balance beam, I knew there was a 10. All my 10s were uneven bars, balance beam, uneven bars, balance beam. So they're like going back and forth during 4 days of competition.
And later on, when 6 more times came out that perfect 10, we started to get used with it. Yeah. Oh, wait a second, that's only 10.
A perfect 10 became absolute perfection. I don't remember prior to Nadia anybody saying perfection was a 10.
In our execution, you can get a 10, but I don't think the judges want to give it out as close as you get. They're just like, nah, maybe this was wrong. So it is very difficult, but I meant she did impact the whole entire sport of gymnastics, so everyone still strives to do that.
Actually, I didn't know there was no 10. I didn't know I was the first one to do that. I knew I was good, but I didn't know I was that good. If you're able to put your best routine at the right time, I think that's the definition of a champion. After so many hours of training, you kind of know what has to go through your mind when you're up there and you know that this is the competition that everybody wants to be at. And you know that you have this chance only every 4 years. There is no redo. It was just like everything was lined up for me at that particular time. I think that I was in a great shape at the right time. When we landed in Bucharest, when I saw so many people, I think there were 10,000 people at the airport, I went back in the plane because I didn't understand why are so many people at the airport. So I didn't understand the magnitude of the Olympics. I mean, I knew what the Olympics were, but I didn't understand that. Did everybody have time to watch it?
Thousands and thousands of people were on the airport waiting for us. And I could not believe it. I absolutely could not believe it. And I seen it, it was like one of the major speeches of this. Ceausescu did not have that many people.
Gimnastei Nadia Comaneci.
I met Ceausescu one time after my Olympics because we did a big celebration of the Olympics and they awarded us. I mean, it's an honor. I'm too young to understand what's going on. It's, you know, for everybody, it's an honor to be honored by the president of the country. These are some of the photos with the presidents, Bill Clinton, George Bush. We went to a few functions and also at the White House for Special Olympics. This is a golden disc that I received after the Olympics in '76. This music was used in Romania after the Olympics when a television crew came to do a piece on me, and they were looking for a music that would fit the slow motion of my balance beam routine, and they picked this music, which had a different name before. Now it's called Nadia's Theme. Because that show became very popular, Barry Dvorzan, who wrote this, it's changed the name from the original to the Nadia's Theme. Pressure? No, I had no pressure when I was 14 and a half, but I did have some when I was 18, and I competed in Moscow. I wanted to be the best because I knew I can be the best. When I was 14 and a half, when I competed in '76, I was just a child that nobody knew pretty much where I'm coming from or where Romania is on the map. They learned that after the Olympics in '76. Going to the Olympics in 1980, I was a grown-up. I was an 18-year-old. And I made a mistake at the preliminary and at the uneven bars, which was my best event. I already knew that I was going to go down because I rushed it. I had to wait a little more, and I didn't. And then that's what happened. It was a learning experience for me, the 1980 Olympics. I ended up with 2 gold and 2 silver. I mean, that's pretty good. Yeah, I could have done better, but it was still pretty good. So I put it in a bag of experiences. Actually, I knew that the 1980 would be basically my last Olympic Games. I didn't see myself being around for 1984. I think that I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I didn't even know what I was going to do when I was be done with gymnastics. I think my idea was to become a doctor. Well, this is something that's very interesting, is the entire gymnastic archive. Starting from 1956, everything that's happened in gymnastics all the way to today is here. I believe that this is the biggest in the world. Nobody has anything close to this. This is the one that when I was still performing in the 90s, though. It's good to have them. I mean, you can see that some of them have a yellowish color because it's all the way goes back to the 50s, and it's awesome. I think that as the time goes, I value more my accomplishments because I didn't realize when I was that young that this was such a big deal. We have a gymnastics school. Actually, the gymnastics school has been here before I even arrived. It's about almost 1,500 kids who do gymnastics and probably 30 coaches or more.
Look at that, pretty darn good. Straighten your legs. It's kind of funny because Nadia is so much more famous globally than I am that people just assume, well, why isn't the Nadia Comaneci Gymnastics School? And maybe we'd be better off if it was, but you know, we already had a thriving business as it was the Bart Conner Academy, so we've already had at least 40 athletes from our program here get full scholarships at major universities from Stanford to Syracuse and a lot of places in between.
Hi, Karen. Hi. These are the grips that we make in the back that I told you about for tiny little kids, all the way the bigger ones. And here are some of the costumes for the show, and over there are all the fabrics for all the leotards that Karen is making for us, no? Because gymnasts need new leotards and colorful leotards and, you know, like something like that. No.
It's a new pattern.
I see.
Working on.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, that's nice, the combination. I can see it over there, yeah. So all the fabrics and all the sewing and cool stuff. I don't know what people think about communism. I found out that I'm watched.
Everybody carried the burden of the communist system with the difficulty of making a progress, to step forward, to be recognized, and to be compensated for your effort. People at that time did not even thought about uprising, asking for their rights, asking for their recognition. They just make you disappear like you never been around.
We were in a gymnastic tour in 1981, and my coach and his wife decided not to come back, and they stayed in the United States. What I didn't like was what happened after Bella left. I've heard that I've got a lot of invitation to go to travel to places, and I was not allowed to. So I understood that this will be probably the end of my traveling, life. I didn't think that was fair. So I thought, this is enough. I have an opportunity to do something, and I'm going to do it.
She had very little access to information about what was going on in the world outside. It was a tremendous leap of faith that she took when she left Romania.
By the time when I got to Defect, I think that was the only time in my adult life when I had no fear. And I think I had to be a little crazy and a little bit insane to do something that's basically dangerous. Go, in the middle of the night and maybe risking your life. It was like doing something in a movie, not thinking about what can happen. I think that we were lucky, that we made it, that we didn't get shot, and everything else. I don't think about that right now because it's just, we made it all the way. But sometimes I'm like, wow, yeah, it was a big deal.
She thought she was going to stay in Hungary for a while, but they wanted her completely out of the old Soviet bloc completely, and so she went to Austria and then asked for asylum in the United States.
I had known Nadia, and we had become acquaintances, but nothing really more than that. And she's an important symbol for our sport. And then we saw that she left Romania, and then she was in Hungary, and I thought, well, maybe she's going to stay there. And then the next day I see that she left Hungary, went to Austria, and asked for political refugee status in the United States, because she showed up at the U.S. Embassy in Vienna and said, I want to go to America. And within hours, they had her on a plane to the United States.
So now she calls Bart, who was one of the few people she really knows in the United States, and Bart said, well, come on to Oklahoma, we'll sort this all out.
I was like a lot of gymnastics friends and fans of hers who wanted to offer a helping hand.
Well, I knew Bart from the time when I was competing. I knew him as a gymnast. But I reconnected with Bart and his coach at the time and our manager now, Paul Zert, and they were involved with gymnastics. They had, all these facilities. They were still doing gymnastic shows, and that's how I reconnected.
I was doing gymnastics exhibitions for years after I finished competing. When Nadia came to the U.S., along with my business partner, Paul Zert, he said, hey, give her a call, see if she wants to do some gymnastic shows. And so I called her up, and she said, no, I don't think so. I haven't done gymnastics in years. I don't want to do it. And I kind of finally talked her into it, and we did 1 or 2 shows together, and she started enjoying it, and we started building our friendship from there. Well, when I first met Nadia, it was kind of a funny story. We actually met in Madison Square Garden in March of 1976, and I remember it distinctly because it happened to be my birthday. And it was a meet called the American Cup. It was a very important international invitational and top athletes from all around the world. And she and I won the final competition on the final day together. And we stood side by side on the awards podium, and we held up these big silver American Cup trophies that we won. And I'll never forget it because a photographer saw us together and he said, get a little closer together, maybe give her a little kiss on the cheek, you know, we'll make a nice picture, whatever. So I gave her a little kiss on the cheek.
We were laughing at that time because both of them were so lovely, so cute. We were always joking on them. You guys, you would make a great couple. Oh, no, what you talking about? I mean, the youth, childish innocence. That was so lovely seeing them.
Bart Conner is one of the nicest people on earth. So, I mean, she could not have wound up with a nicer person.
Well, I think the fact that we are gymnasts connected us. We think alike and different, which makes our connection much more interesting. Well, this is the office that I'm not supposed to go in, but Dylan, it's the office of our son, Dylan. He's 10 years old and he's a toys collector. Everything is in here. Every little thing from roller blades, roller skates, to candy machines, to Pac-Man, to anything you name. Guns, Star Wars stuff. Oh, and a photo of me. The important thing that we do right now is parenting. All our work that we do to be sure that our 10-year-old has a great education and nice environment, and he's happy. One time he came from kindergarten, he was 4 and a half. Mom, Dad, do you know you're famous? We didn't tell, you know, we went to the Olympics, we did this and this and this and this.
Oh, and he goes, right.
I like the feeling of connecting with kids because I know how bad they want to do something, and I know how difficult it is to do a lot of things still. I like to see a happy face. I love to go back to Romania. Actually, I go back 6 times a year. We created a clinic for underserved kids, a hospital. Where parents who can't afford to treat their kids when they're sick, they come there. It's not only kids, it's also elderly. I'm happy that I could help.
Every sport says, you should compete like Nadia, you should be the next Nadia. Nadia's name is coming up on every corner, on every mouth, and everybody, the one who loves the sport, first of all thinks about Nadia because she's representing the best among the very best.
You have to give Nadia, just who Nadia is and what she did and what she represented, a tremendous amount of the indirect credit for the boom of American female gymnastics.
Growing up, you always heard about the perfect 10 from Nadia, so you see the video and you're just in awe. You want to replicate the exact same thing that she did and hopefully one day get a 10. But it is very difficult, and that's why she's the only one that has gotten it.
The United States has been the dominant country in the world in women's gymnastics since 1984, and who would have ever thought that?
We have pretty much dominated over the years. We look up to her so much because of what she did, and she strived us to be the best that we can be.
Gymnastics was a way for me to live a different life. It defined my life in a way that I couldn't even think what would I have done if I didn't do gymnastics. When I started, I went in to play in a gym just because it was cool to do flips and just because I could do things that my mom wouldn't let me do at home. So out of just finding a place to spend my energy, I ended up going to the 2 Olympic Games and scoring the first perfect 10. That was not in the script for me. I don't know what I would have said If somebody would say to me, you know, if you go to the gym and start to do this sport, you know, maybe you will be able to make history. I'm like, what does it mean? So it just happened. I just enjoy what I do right now and be happy that my family is okay, and be happy that I'm able to travel and you know, represent gymnastics. Because every time I go somewhere and I meet with people and we talk about things, I mean, I think my name connects with the sport, you know, Nadia, gymnastics, and Romania.